I want you to attack me. After a struggle, you can... Come on, harder.
In this opening scene, two important MI7 figures are shown reviewing a file box belonging to a senior detective named Johnny English. As serious cases emerge that must be handled immediately, Johnny's current whereabouts are being questioned. 8 years after Johnny English's first mission ended, he is now undergoing a series of kung fu martial arts courses in Tibet, as well as forgetting the most embarrassing thing in his entire career, namely the result of failure on an intelligence mission on the African continent, or to be precise in Mozambique, after going through various training sessions hard at a Solan hermitage, starting from agility techniques, muscle strength, even concentration training techniques. Long story short, arrived at the final testing phase where Johnny had to fight one-on-one against his senior, and unexpectedly the results turned out to be unexpected. After finding out where he was there, MI7 finally asked Johnny to return to join them. The teacher was worried about Johnny's abilities, but finally allowing him to resume his career.
No.
Arriving in London, Johnny was a little surprised by the MI7 headquarters, which had undergone many name changes to Toshiba Intelligence Service, and after being asked to meet Pegasus in the lobby by the receptionist, then he met Pamela Thornton, or Pegasus. He was asked to investigate a big case related to a plot to assassinate the Chinese Prime Minister. Then Pegasus took Johnny to review his office, where the location and weapons there were now much more sophisticated. In that room Johnny met his old friends, namely Simon Ambrose, and the head of MI7's weapons technology section, namely Patch Quartermain, and at the same time he was even introduced to a young agent who would accompany him in investigating the case to China, this young detective named Colin Tucker.
Come on, Tucker.
Upon arrival in Hong Kong, Johnny and Tucker entered a gambling hall called Macau. There they were given a clue that there was a man with his characteristic glasses. Reportedly this man was the closest person to the Prime Minister assassination group. Tucker already knows who the person is, but Johnny is the wrong person, even though the real target is the man with glasses next to him. But suddenly the man fell on the gambling table and showed a circle code that said Kowloon Paradise. From that clue he met a former AI agent named Titus Fisher, who turned out to be one of the members of the vortex that thwarted his mission in Mozambique, and he was one of the figures who planned the assassination of the Chinese Prime Minister. While being honest with Johnny, Titus gave him a lead key and said that if one of the keys was lost then the end of Vortex. But Titus was killed by a sniper hired by Vortex, who disguised himself as an apartment cleaning service. Meanwhile the key to the League falls into the hands of one of the Vortex members. The chase was intense. The terrain on the roof of the building was enough to make old Johnny overwhelmed, but suddenly remembered what the teacher in Tibet said: a strong mind must be separated from the body. When muscle and physical strength are no longer possible, then strategy and stratagem will be the answer. And indeed Johnny put this into practice during that pursuit. When his target was to risk his life descending the building via bamboo formwork, Johnny wisely chose the elevator. The chase continues in the waters of Hong Kong Bay. With the help of a missile control laser camera, Johnny manages to capture his target and snatch the key from his hands. On the flight back to London, Johnny was very happy with what he got, but he was so happy that he didn't realize he had given the suitcase to a Vortex member disguised as a flight attendant to store it in the cabin.
But then you're not a linguist. Thank you. Shushan.
Long story short, at an important meeting, Johnny appeared enthusiastic because he thought the key was still in the suitcase, saw Pegasus and the others in a daze, Johnny realized that the fake steward named Susan had taken the key. Johnny's face looked pale with embarrassment. Then he felt as if the killer was there in the guise of a room cleaner. Without saying much more, he immediately took out his kung fu moves and knocked the grandmother out. And it turned out that the grandmother was Pegasus's mother. This time Johnny seemed to have lost the skin on his face because of his immeasurable shame. Fortunately, a beautiful woman named Kate Summer came over to Johnny. Kate, who was also a professional psychologist with the help of a high-speed camera, then told Johnny to recall the incident in Mozambique with her hypnosis skills. On the count of 3, Johnny returned to the past, where when he was in Mozambique he found the second member of Vortex, namely Karlenko, a spy from Russia.
Karlenko.
So as not to be easily detected, Tucker changed Johnny's name to Peter Adams, as well as arranging an online golf meeting schedule between Peter and Karlenko. When they met on the golf course, the conversation was serious but relaxed. Reading Johnny's storyline, apparently Karlenko suspected Johnny's intentions and intended to kill him. But suddenly the grandmother appeared and shot Karlenko, while Johnny and Tucker survived and immediately took Karlenko to the hospital using a helicopter. After arriving at the hospital, Karlenko told Johnny that the last key holder of the vortex that tried to kill the Chinese Prime Minister was in MI7, and not long afterward Karlenko was dead.
Yes. Yes. 7. Unbelievable.
Until one night Johnny invited Simon to dinner while talking about the existence of Vortex members who had infiltrated MI7. Hearing this, Simon planned to kill Johnny secretly. Then Tucker told Johnny and Simon to go to the bathroom. In the bathroom, Tucker explained that Simon was the last member of the Vortex. But Johnny didn't trust Tucker and even told Tucker to leave. While outside the bathroom, Simon lied to Johnny that Quartermain was the intruder. Unfortunately, Johnny trusted Simon more than Tucker. When he urged Quartermain to admit what he had done, Quartermain actually accused Johnny of being the perpetrator and ordered MI7 members to arrest him. When he tried to escape, Johnny was shot in the leg so he couldn't run. Johnny immediately grabbed Quartermain's wheelchair to escape. Johnny went to Kate's house and made sure that he was not the perpetrator. His body weakened and he fell unconscious. During that time Kate looked after him until Johnny regained consciousness. Then Kate told Johnny about the drug Vortex used called timoxyline barbibutanol, which they probably used to control their victims before the person died. It was at that moment that the seeds of Kate and Johnny's love began to bloom. Not long after, Kate went to Switzerland with Simon, while Johnny stayed at Kate's house. But it seemed that Simon already knew where Johnny was there. Suddenly he was startled by the suspicious sound of a vacuum cleaner machine, and it turned out that the grandmother was already there with the machine wood chipper to kill Johnny, but he escapes with trash and sanitary napkins. Johnny immediately met Tucker at his rented house and forced him to join back. Tucker was annoyed with him, but in the end he was willing to join Johnny again.
The D16 ascender.
Agent in distress. Agent in distress. Agent in distress. Agent.
Shut up! Shut up!
After arriving at the Vortex headquarters, Johnny immediately looked for Simon and talked to him about the drug, so that Johnny unknowingly drank a drink that had been filled with the drug. Before it could be controlled by Simon, Johnny tried to fight back but failed. When Simon had started to control Johnny to kill the Chinese Prime Minister, Tucker and Kate tried to cut off communication between Simon and Johnny. Before shooting the Chinese Prime Minister, Johnny remembers the words he was told by his teacher in Tibet, who said, "Let yourself be in control." Johnny tries to fight back, so Simon gets annoyed and unconsciously making his cover blown by saying his name when telling Johnny to pull the trigger.
Listen to me, this is Simon Ambrose.
fire!
Johnny immediately turned away from the Chinese Prime Minister and immediately shot at Simon, who managed to escape. Due to the influence of the medication, Johnny's heart almost stopped beating, so he became unconscious. The medics immediately helped Johnny, whose heart rate was getting weaker. Unfortunately, Johnny's heart rate stopped quickly. Kate immediately approached Johnny and kissed him on the lips passionately, whether he was pretending to faint or really fainting. The problem was that Johnny seemed to enjoy Kate's kiss and said, "Just a little more." Not long after, Kate was relieved because Johnny was alive again and kissed Johnny again. Tucker immediately checked Johnny's heart rate and it turned out that Johnny's heart was beating fast. After he was fully conscious, Johnny thanked Kate and Tucker. Knowing that Simon had run away, Johnny immediately jumped onto the snow motorbike with a parachute and immediately chased Simon. When Johnny was on Simon's cable car, Johnny got into a fight with Simon and unfortunately Johnny fell from the cable car and landed in the snow. Johnny immediately opened one of MI7's tools, namely a bulletproof umbrella, and it turned out it was just an ordinary umbrella. Seeing that Tucker immediately told him that it was a rocket umbrella, Johnny immediately used the umbrella and managed to kill Simon. Johnny was very relieved and praised Tucker by saying, "Tucker, you are a smart boy." Returning to London, Johnny was knighted by the Queen, who turned out to be the killer from Hong Kong who wanted to kill Johnny English. When Johnny wanted to catch him, he immediately ran away. Johnny saw him in the hallway and immediately beat him and caught him. After he caught the killer in front Pegasus, 2 guards brought the real killer. Seeing this, Johnny immediately realized who he had hit and felt worried, and it turned out to be the real Queen.